How postcard marketing is becoming digital, why you need to be succinct with your marketing copy, and how and why marketing trends and channels are cyclical. That and more on this episode of Advertising Influencers.
Advertising Influencers. Conversations with today's top-tier marketers from Silicon Valley and beyond. Powered by Instapage, the most powerful landing page solution.
Hello. Hope you're doing very well whenever and wherever you are listening. My name is Ander, marketing educator here at Instapage and host of this podcast powered by Instapage. Welcome to Advertising Influencers, where we're speaking with the best and brightest minds in the digital marketing and advertising spaces today. Whether they have new technology, a fascinating growth story at their own company, or whatever it may be, this is the place to hear the coolest things that are happening in the space and what is going to be coming up in the digital advertising and marketing spaces momentarily or in the very near future, perhaps the even distant future. Great conversation last time with Scott Lewis, the CEO and founder of Cake Factory, a real-time social advertising platform powered by artificial intelligence. Check it out when you have a chance, but first listen to this episode. Awesome guy, and really can't wait to share it with you. His name is Jordan Crawford, and he is a co-founder and CEO of Scout. It's a company that is creating the next generation of postcard marketing by bringing all the benefits that we have with digital advertising, with targeting, with tracking to this previously analog channel. He also runs a really cool Facebook group. It's called Postcard Pros, and it's specifically for direct mail marketers. And I know most people think of direct mail, postcard marketing as this fairly antiquated thing, this thing that's old, it's not trackable, and it's not really relevant anymore. Well, Scout is completely changing that, and it's becoming more increasingly relevant, and we're going to get into that in this conversation. Another cool thing about Scout is it allows business owners and marketers to personalize postcards with a SaaS-style in-browser design tool and to optimize their direct mail campaigns with internal analytics. Needless to say, there's a ton of interesting stuff to talk about with Jordan during this episode, so without further ado, let's go say hello. So as I've said a few times when I've done these podcast interviews before, sometimes it's a great excuse to talk to someone, to see somebody who I haven't seen in a very long time. And I'm sitting down right now with one of those people, the founder of Send with Scout, or should I just abbreviate it to Scout?
Scout. The .com wasn't available, so.
Sure. Scout.com, that probably would be fairly expensive if it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm here with Jordan Crawford. Jordan, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Scout, what is Scout? I told our audience a little bit about it in the introduction to this interview, but obviously we would like to hear it from the man who created it himself.
Sure. So Scout is a next generation postcard marketing system. So it's sort of different in three ways. The first is you can design a postcard in the browser. That means you can copy and paste images, you can add text. Incidentally, you can actually add variables from your list. So you want to do things like MailChimp can do, where you can insert first names or whatever information you have into the list. You can actually insert that into the design. And more importantly, actually, we can do tracking per postcard. So we have the ability to generate unique URLs for every single postcard, a phone number per campaign. We can do QR codes or promo codes. And because the URLs and the QR codes are unique to every single card, we know who came and visited your website from that card. So we have a dashboard where you can see exactly who came. We have caller IDs for folks that called into the forwarding number that we auto-generate. And we have the ability to do targeting for you too. So not only, if you're looking for people in San Francisco that like cats, that live in a house and are interested in sports.
Sure.
Yeah, we can find those 6 to 8 people.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
yeah, we also, just one other thing, we've got a list tool that will actually validate every single address with USPS to make sure that you don't send any postcards that won't be deliverable, that you can actually edit those addresses inside of Scout Studio, and we'll validate them every time to make sure that you only pay for and you only send postcards that actually will be delivered.
Wow, that's really cool. So if I'm understanding all of this correctly, you're basically taking everything that's awesome about digital marketing and you're bringing that to the analog world.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how many people send postcards. I got a gentleman who contacted me a couple months ago, had a $100,000 budget for postcards because they had heard it worked for another person in their space. So it was crazy. I'm like, you don't have any data on this and you're going to run a postcard campaign because you'd heard it worked for a competitor. And I just thought that's not the way. You would never do that with Google AdWords or Facebook.
No.
Like, you'd need to know. And postcards, no one really knows right now.
As marketers, we're obsessed with data. And I think that that's one of the reasons that people are so turned off or scared by billboard advertising or postcards in this case. But you're solving that problem. That's really cool. I got to ask, what inspired this?
Well, interestingly enough, we had a product before this that was instant small business websites. So
I think I remember you showing that to me about a year ago.
yeah, so you can instantly generate a website for any small business, any restaurant, and you can see it works fine on all different devices. So we actually did some marketing for that product. So it's really, really hard to reach small businesses, as you probably know, Andrew. And so we sent a bunch of postcards out, and we were working with an API partner to do that. And they said, look, if you build this CSV tool so that non-technical people can send postcards, we'll send a bunch of leads your way and we'll have a lot of folks use it to send out postcards. We launched on Product Hunt. We were the first on Product Hunt. Like, I didn't send a text message to my friends. Like, I didn't contact my parents, none of that. And because I think people were looking for that. So in the first 3 months, we closed more revenue than the last 2 years of running that business. So
wow.
We decided that that's the way to go.
That is awesome. Now, given that you are, again, digitizing something that's in the analog space, so to speak, what is your marketing philosophy? How has Scout changed that or shaped that as you've grown this company?
Well, one thing I noticed that most marketers, myself included, just do awfully is describe listen to my 20-minute pitch of Scout. It wasn't as good as it could have been, but because they know their product so well, they've got jargon on it, right? And so I'll see some of my customers that will come to me with postcards that have thousands of words on them. I mean, that's a little bit overstatement, but lots and lots of words. And it's like, this is not your pitch. The purpose of sending a postcard is sort of half sales, half advertising, and you just want to get people's attention. Now, the nice thing is there's not as many postcards in your box as there are emails. So
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so you've got an audience that has more time devoted to that particular channel. But if you don't describe your product in a concise and interesting way, people aren't gonna interact. I did a live interview the other day with Imperfect Produce. Mm-hmm. They send you ugly produce.
Yep.
So
heard of them.
Their tagline is ugly produce delivered. Perfect. 3 words, exactly what their business does. Mm-hmm. And my philosophy is like, describe what you do in a way that a customer who knows nothing about your business can understand in 2 to 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. That's it. If you can do that, you're way ahead of the game.
And on a postcard, with the limited amount of real estate that you actually have, it facilitates that. Is that fair to say?
Surprisingly not. People like to cram more information into the small space instead of the other way around, as you might think, that it leads folks to be more concise. People happen to throw more information into the postcard, which defeats the purpose. So I always say, take your postcard, design it, share it with someone who knows nothing about your product, and for 2 seconds, and then remove it from them. And if they can't explain what you do, then you've said too much.
Interesting test. Yeah. I think that people should apply that to landing pages as well.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. So if I'm a marketer and I want to get into postcard marketing, is that what I'd call it?
Yeah. You got it.
I'm a digital marketer. Maybe I work for an agency. Maybe I'm a marketing manager at a larger team or organization. I want to get into postcard marketing. What do I need to be aware of? And what do I need to consider as I'm evaluating if that's an effective channel for me?
That's a good question. The folks you want to target, that's going to make up a lot of your ROI, right? Mm-hmm. So e-commerce companies, for example, they have folks that have dropped off of the cart, right?
Sure.
That have added stuff to the cart, added their address, and not completed the buy, right? Those are great people to mail because they know your brand, they're going to see it, and they're going to respond. My mechanic sent me a postcard the other day that said, hey, your car is probably broken. You should contact me. So for sure I did, because I had a relationship with that person. So I would say start with your list. Think about who can you contact that knows your brand. And if you don't know if you don't have like a list of addresses of folks that know your brand, I would say know who your customers are really well. And there are a bunch of different sites, like Info USA is one of them, where you can buy mailing list of folks that match your demographics. So the more you can spend on your list, the better off you will be. So the other piece that's important for folks that are looking to get into postcards is to think about like, what is your offer? What is going to get your customer, your ideal customer, to respond to you, right? And who are your current customers? Who are your best customers? And surprisingly, a lot of folks that I chat with don't know the demographics of their customers, right? Because in a digital world, you click some things down, you try different things. But even if you went into Facebook, I assume that you can pull in data around who has converted well. I don't know Facebook all that well from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, it's pretty robust.
Yeah. So I would say that you should start there and then target based on the folks that have reacted to your online, your online stuff, and pull targeting information that way.
Do you find that a lot of the leads or the customers that you're talking to, do you find that they are marketers, or are you talking to a lot of people who do not have like a very highly skilled digital marketing background?
So surprisingly, a lot of the companies that send just unlimited amounts of postcards are in sort of non-technical industries. Right. It's actually kind of bifurcated. There's a bunch of startups that have discovered this. I got sent by accident like about 40 postcards from Caviar the other day because I'm going to send.
Did they have unique promo codes on them?
No. So they were doing something called EDDM, which is every door direct mail, where you basically give a stack to a post person and they put it into different boxes. It's because it's much, much cheaper than if you send it to individually targeted addresses. So obviously that postal person didn't do their job
they didn't.
as well as they should have. So I'm going to send a note to Caviar to say, look, you definitely want to be using me instead of using this tactic.
Anytime that you get a postcard delivered into your mailbox, you, Jordan, can pick up that postcard and say, this person's doing postcard marketing.
Yeah. Actually, it is kind of funny. So I try to get my address out there. Like anytime a form asks for my address, I'm like, I'll enter that thing twice to see if I can get some more leads that way. I didn't think about that. But
you are probably the only person who enjoys entering in their address and giving it away as much as they can.
Yeah. It's actually really helpful. So in this case, that's how I got in touch with Imperfect Produce. Is they sent me a postcard and I wrote an article about them. And I said, let me interview you. I want to chat and find out about your strategy. So
awesome. So what are some of the unique growth challenges that you have with Scout? Because it's a really different product. I don't know if you'd call it SaaS, but there's a SaaS component to it. What are some of the interesting growth challenges that you have?
Surprisingly, so we launched Studio sort of officially 2-3 weeks ago. And we were sort of operating as a consulting agency ahead of that to validate that there was a product here and that's something people wanted. I haven't really been able to keep up with the deals, surprisingly. Folks that will find me, I've written a lot online about how to run a direct mail campaign, how we go about our design process. We've got a Facebook group that we're growing, an active YouTube channel. So there's just a handful of places that I have tried to spread the word about postcard marketing. And so we've had folks that are selling products we got one guy, One Rent is one of our customers, and they do property management for folks that own property. And they can get addresses of those folks. Like that is their channel. So I would say that we don't really have to convince people that postcards are a thing, fortunately, because the people that know really know and know this is a problem. So the largest growth challenge is really getting to those folks that are sending 1.0 postcards, that are sending postcards through a mail house where they're going to ask you questions like, what size paper, like what density, they don't care about your marketing challenges, right? It's a printer. They care about printing. And so talking to those people and saying, hey, you can run a postcard marketing campaign and measure the results. And that's a hard conversation to have because they're like, wait, what do you mean? It's a print thing. I don't know how that works. And so really just getting in touch with people that are not in this sort of new digital space that are sending a lot of mail. Insurance companies will send a bunch of mail, and like real estate agents too. And having the conversation too about price. We're more expensive and intentionally so because you can measure and determine what your ROI is.
You get what you pay for in that case.
Yeah. So just having conversations with folks that are already sending real estate agents send a bunch of postcards and saying like, look, we're a little bit more expensive than what you're doing today, but you'll actually know which postcards convert better. You'll know if you should be sending 4x6 cards, 6x11, 6x9. And you can then chat with another gentleman yesterday that only sends 4x6 cards because even though they convert at a much lower rate, the price per conversion is much better, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, so there's all sorts of cool
lower
testing.
cost of acquisition.
Yeah, lower cost of acquisition. So there's all sorts of cool testing that you can do. And I think it's actually a really good time for it because the tools have just started to develop. I mean, we couldn't have built Scout a year ago. It's just the technology wasn't there. So the tools are just starting to become available where modern marketers can use this channel and use it in the same sort of way that they use Facebook ads and understand if it works for them. And because it's not overrun, you have got this, like any great marketing channel, you've got a window that if you can take advantage of it, you have the opportunity to, convert.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that's interesting about postcard marketing is that it's probably underutilized by a lot of people because they haven't considered the possibility of actually making this work, Yeah,
I like to tell this story. If you go into DoorDash's building, the folks that manage their front desk are writing letters to small businesses to get them onto DoorDash.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that type of personalization, I think, is something else. And it's clear that they're just trying to utilize maybe like time that is otherwise spent it just helps them because they're already paying for that person to be there. So you'd be surprised at the folks that are using direct mail, and those larger sort of mid-sized to larger startups know that it's an underutilized channel, and you'll see them send a bunch of postcards. And the nice thing is Caviar doesn't care that they have to spend $100,000 on a postcard campaign because they know that the whatever company that is, whatever delivery company that is competing with Caviar, that they can't afford that.
Right. Now, can you A/B test postcard marketing?
We actually just sent our first official A/B tested campaign out yesterday. And we were just testing the image. We get most of our images from Unsplash or Pixabay, and those are royalty-free images that you can use. So I worked with a founder, and we picked out 3 or 4 different images, and we have metrics on every, because we have a dashboard, so we created a couple campaigns and sent out several thousand postcards, and we're going to see which image converts better, and then we'll tweak other design elements as well.
That is awesome. Now, what about I guess in digital you would call it the post-click experience, but in the postcard marketing world, what are some of the observations that you've made of how the experience might be different when someone converts? And I guess by convert, I mean when they go to that personalized landing page.
Postcards have a unique challenge there because it's like somewhere between sales and like direct sales and advertising, because generally I'll advise people to send 3 or 4 postcards in a given month. And I chatted with someone who's doing 1.5 million pieces a month of direct mail. And they will sometimes they'll send 5 or 6 pieces to one person in a given month. And they will see them act on the first piece because what they do is they hold on to that card. 3 or 4 more pieces come in, they throw that in the trash. Like, I already have that first piece of mail that you sent me, and I've been meaning to act on it. I'll do it today. And they'll go in and enter the code from the first card and convert on that, right? But we'll also tell you to look at your Google Analytics on that. We can tell you exactly when the cards arrive, so you can look at your Google Analytics and see who converts. We're doing an experiment with a company that can actually do address attribution based on cookies, which is crazy. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, so you can come from your browser and I can say, I know Andrew converted because his browser is associated with this address. So it's a little bit, it's on the edges of creepy, but we can do other things like that to fully sort of flesh out what conversion means. But it's somewhere in between, doing a email campaign where you can then directly measure the results versus like putting up a billboard where it's like, look, I'm just trying to raise awareness of what we do.
Are people doing awareness raising campaigns, just brand awareness with postcard marketing, or is it fairly conversion focused?
No, it's conversion focused for sure. Very rarely will you see, real estate's a little different because real estate, it's more of awareness. Like, hey, I'm your neighborhood. You just got to Google real estate postcards because you'll see the weirdest things. Like, here's my chicken cacciatore recipe. And it's like, why are you sending this to me? But that's an awareness campaign, right? It's like, look, you're only going to sell your house one time in the next X amount of years. I want you to think Jordan when you are selling your house. And, there's a bunch of we're working with a customer right now who runs a company, Touchpoint Games. Shout out to Chris. He runs it's like a football pool. So he's going to have realtors run football pools for their neighbors. So they can say, look, if you bet on this thing and you win a $500 Amazon gift card if you win. So it's a way for the realtor to just really be engaged with the community. Folks will come in and say, oh yeah, I'm going to bet on the Patriots to win, and they get points. And so it's mostly for conversions, but there are some examples where it's just a pure awareness thing, especially when the ROI is really, really high, like you're selling a house.
Yeah. So if we kind of take a step back from a lot of what we've talked about and look at things on a bit of a broader level, one of the theories that I have and what I think is absolutely going to happen is back in the Mad Men days, let's say, everyone was like super into creating these crazy billboards and expensive, TV commercials. And that was really how you broke through the noise. That was how you got the message out there. And when digital really started ramping up, a lot of people kind of turned their nose up at magazine ads or anything like that. And I imagine that happened quite a bit with postcard marketing as well. And I've always thought that some of these more traditional analog channels are going to start becoming relevant again. And I think that this is a testament to that. So with all that said, where do you think marketing is headed, just generally in the future? And how do you think Scout's going to be impacted, or Scout will impact marketing?
Oh, what a question. I'll say two things. The first is that things are cyclical. So what happens is people will utilize a channel, it will get overwrought, people won't respond to it, and then people will forget about it. And you can see this in antibiotics, right? It's like, you look at some crazy antibiotics from the 1600s. It's like, oh, if you rub a cat on yourself, you'll get cured of scurvy. And it's like, that'll never work. And then they try it, and it's like, oh, look, you're cured of scurvy. Like, why does that work? It's, it's because we haven't used it in a billion years. So I think marketing is the same way, that people come back to channels that they forgot about. And everyone was so excited to rush on digital. The Great Recession actually drastically dropped postage, the amount of postage that was sent. So I think there's a cyclical element. You also asked, like, where do I see the future of Scout, or what was the...
How do you think, where does Scout and postcard marketing in general, where does that fit in to this cycle?
Well, fortunately for us, it's a channel that still exists. There's a lot of people that are sending postcards today in sort of as I said before, like a 1.0 fashion, just sending it out because they always have sent it out, right? So there's a huge opportunity to make that smarter. But all of these new startups and a bunch of large companies that have come about in the last 10 years aren't doing it, don't know it as a channel. And fortunately for Scout, a lot of companies think that it's silly, right? The search volumes on postcard marketing are really, really low. They don't understand the power of it, which means that that's an arbitrage opportunity for us to, A, charge a bunch of money for it, and B, provide a bunch of value that doesn't exist today because just a lot of the really big spenders in marketing either are using it in an old school way or aren't using postcards at all. So there probably comes a time where, too much mail is being sent. But I think the fact that postage alone is cost prohibitive from newer people entering the market, that you won't see smaller startups with $10,000 a month marketing budgets really dive onto postcard marketing. So it'll kind of probably always be a channel for larger companies to utilize it, just as a matter of how much will they utilize it and how does that compare with other channels.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, this has been a really interesting conversation. And the technology that you guys are working on with digitizing this analog thing is just so cool to me. So thank you so much for coming in here once again. I've got one last question for you. And this is, how can people find you? How can people find Scout?
Oh, great. I'd love to answer that question.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, so I am Jordan, Jordan, at sendwithscout.com. Feel free to email me. I love helping out in so many different ways. So I'd love to look at your postcard, provide critique, run a Facebook group, facebook.com/group/postcardpros. The website is sendwithscout.com. You can sign up for free, Scout Studio. And if you're thinking about postcard marketing, I'd just like to make the offer. Send me an email. I just want to help educate folks on the channel and to teach them about it and to provide as much information as I can. I don't really care if you use Scout. If you think well of me, then that will be that will be payment enough. So
awesome.
So thanks so much, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on again. This was great. I completely agree with what Jordan was saying, and it's something that I actually talk about with a lot of my marketing friends here in San Francisco and elsewhere for that matter, that a lot of the older channels, billboard advertising, the stuff that you would see during the Mad Men days, as I referred to during that conversation with Jordan, a lot of that's going to come back, but it's going to come back in a far more powerful way, in that it will be powered by all of the advantages that we have with digital advertising. Still wonder how they'll be able to do that with certain old marketing channels, but we will have to see. I'm sure there's a way that the right people out there, like Jordan, can make that happen. As with every other episode, the transcript and the show notes are available for this episode on our website at instapage.com/podcast. While you're there, please check out any of the other resources that we have to offer you on marketing personalization, lowering your cost of customer acquisition, whether it's our blog, our webinars hosted by yours truly, some of the videos produced by our awesome in-house video team, and let us know what you think. Here's my email address. It is ander@instapage.com, ANDER@instapage.com, and we are all over social media as well. We would love to hear from you. All right, my fellow marketers, I am out for now. My name is Ander, and this is Advertising Influencers. Cheers to your future success, and cheers to better marketing. I will talk to you soon.
Advertising Influencers. Conversations with today's top-tier marketers from Silicon Valley and beyond. Powered by Instapage, the most powerful landing page solution.